Welcome to the forum. We are so glad that you have joined us in a special installment of the Forum Live. Today we'll be premiering our topic that we'll be working on for our last final show of the season, and it talks about freedom, policing, and protest. It's one of the biggest topics right now in the country. Lots of things are going on. Things seem to be happening every day, every week on the news. And so we wanted to talk about it. So I have my daughter here with me, and we're going to premiere some of the questions that we're going to be asking folks for our next show. And so we wanted to invite you to join the conversation and give us feedback and pipe in and let your voice be heard. Even if you're coming for the replay, we still want you to comment below. And be a part of this very, very, very important conversation. So we are so glad you are here, and we're just going to jump right in. Part of this, I was starting to talk to my daughter. One of the first questions I asked her was, and I don't know if let me turn this down to make sure you can hear me. One of the first questions that I asked her was, what does it mean to you to have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness? And she was telling me that she really didn't know like what that meant. And so I was explaining to her about how this country was founded and the Declaration of Independence, and about how the forefathers were part of England initially and wanted religious freedoms, and so they sought out to build their own country and make their own rules to be free. And I wanted to ask her, as a young person, I had to break it down in the context for her is that, young people want to be an adult. And so part of being an adult is being free from the rules of your parents, and to be able to kind of live your life the way you want to live it. And so I was just wanting to know, like, given everything that's going on in the country and everything that she hears about and just things that she hears about on the news, how does she feel about her chances of being able to live a free life, to be able to maneuver like she wants and to pursue her own happiness? And so I asked her to think about that. And so if you guys have any comments, definitely pipe in, and then Bailey's going to read them, and we want you to be a part of the conversation as well. So, Bailey, why don't you tell me... Oh, sorry. Go ahead and speak to your friends.
Oh, hi, Sky. Hi, Rocky.
Hey, Sky and Rocky. And you guys pipe in if you guys find any of these questions interesting. And so, Bailey, now that I've kind of broken down the question for you, what do you think about that? Like, do you feel like, as a growing young woman, that you will have the right to your freedom and to pursue your happiness the way you want to?
Yeah.
You do?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Okay. All right. She says she feels like she's going to be free and to be able to maneuver like she likes. So that's awesome. So now let's talk about the hard stuff and to talk about police. We've seen a lot of police in the news on both sides. We've seen, police serving and protecting over the years, but here lately, a lot of what we've seen on the news is police being viewed in a very negative way to groups and people of color. And so we want to know, like, what do you think the job of police is, in America? What do you believe?
To protect the people from crimes and stuff.
Mm-hmm. So tell me a little bit more about that. Give me an example of when police should be involved and when police shouldn't.
Like when somebody's robbing a bank or something,
okay.
Trying to steal something, or somebody, I don't know, a break-in in
okay.
house or something like that. Yeah.
Okay. And then based on how you're seeing in the news now, is there anything that contradicts that, or is there anything that you see where police shouldn't be involved? Or if they should, do you see it differently? Like, do you think that police are doing just what they need to do? Or do you see it differently? What's your opinion? And as far as, especially the friends that, when you guys have conversations, what do y'all think about, what's going on in the world in reference to police?
Right now, for my generation, it's a debate between are all cops bad or are all cops good or whatever. And so, To me, wait. So what's the question again?
The question is, what do you think the job of police is?
Like to protect the people. And right now, I don't think they're doing a very good job of that. Or maybe here they are, but in other places they're not.
Now, what do you mean by that?
Like, for I think in different areas there's like different police, so like that's why people are like, well, not all cops are bad, and so like here it's not as bad as where it is in certain areas.
And you mean where you live?
Yeah,
yeah,
where we
in
live.
Oklahoma. Okay.
And like the police aren't that bad, or I haven't had any problems with the police here, like the police around school and all that. Like they're nice, they're kind. So not all cops are bad, but around the world it seems to be like the police are worse and more like racist to black people.
And what makes you say that, or what have you seen that gives you the idea? Is it basically like what you and your friends talk about, or is it the news about when you are watching news with us?
It's the news. There's people that are posting on social media like videos of cops being unfair to black people, like pulling them out of their cars, shooting them for no reason, just stuff like that. Like, but it's not like specifically where we live here. It's like around the world.
Does it impact you because the things that you're seeing aren't in your neighborhood per se on the national news? Do you still think and feel any way about it, or not?
Yeah, definitely. Because like when you see it, like, because I don't know, it's sad to see like people that are the same color as me around the world getting treated like that, and so it's like it makes people want to do something. Especially my friends are like, what can we do to do this? And that's why people are like protest and this peacefully walking and all that. So yeah, it affects us because it's like that could be us. Like all my friends are always like, that could be my brother, that could be my dad walking the street, and then they get shot. And so like
that's awesome. That's exactly what it kind of leads to our next question. Hey, I was going to ask you about what are you and your friends talking about when George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Daniel Prude, and then there was a Rochester killing just a little while ago, and we talked a little bit about that off camera about a gentleman that appeared to be having a mental break where he was police were called just to help because he was not wanting to be clothed and just acting like he was having some emotional issues, and ended up losing his life once police got on the scene. And so I wonder, do stories like this, like your first answer was police are there to serve and protect us, does that change your opinion when you hear about those stories about the job of police?
Yeah, it does. Every time I see a black person get shot by police or murdered by police, it's just like the standards of police protecting people, like it goes down. So every time I see that, it's just like some of my friends are like, police aren't bad because like Reese, her dad's a cop or whatever, and so she's like, well, not all police are bad, but in my eyes it seems like the police around the world aren't doing their job. Doesn't mean like her dad is a bad cop. It's just that they're not really doing their job around the world.
Yeah,
it seems like.
Does it make you feel, because I know right now we're, after we do this video, we'll go for some drives because you're learning to drive. Does it make you feel any kind of way that once you do get your license and you're driving, let's say you're driving with one of your friends that may be on with us right now in a car, and does it make you feel differently about driving? Do you have any angst or nervousness about driving because you see a lot of the conflicts happening around people like driving on the street or minding their own business in that way?
Yeah, it makes me really nervous because remember that one time we were going to Walmart and you said the cops was following us and that you gave me a tip for like to go to a public place.
Yes.
If you feel like there's someone's following you, especially the police.
Yes.
So that makes me nervous.
Yeah, and that's a hard conversation to have with your kid because I don't want to have that conversation with her, but in order to keep her safe, I feel like I had to, because there are cases that happen like that. There are cases where police are trying to keep their ticket quota or what it is, and so it for me and my experience, you don't necessarily have to be doing anything wrong. It's kind of like they'll figure it out as they get closer to you or follow you or make sure, and so, that it's something that I had to tell my daughter, to watch out for as I'm teaching her to drive. Because oftentimes, I know when I was learning, just to drive and just being a young adult, sometimes when police start following you, it can make you nervous and make you drive more erratically, which gives them cause to pull you over, and just leads you just down a road that you just don't want to go down. And unfortunately, like I said, I hate to have those talks with my kid. I wish I could just tell her, you learn how to drive, you follow the road rules, and have a good time. But yeah, I did talk to her about whenever you feel like you are being followed by anyone, but also the police, drive safely and just try to find a way to pull over to a public place, preferably where other people can hold everyone accountable. And that's just a safety measure that, for me as a parent, that I wanted my daughter to know. So, and I'm sure you guys have, your own things where they're, that you tell your kids to be safe, So anyway, that's just something that I had to do. Now I'm going to move us to our next question that leads us to, we talked a little bit about the protests, and you said that when you talk to your friends and when you and your friends see injustices that you want to do something, and you talked about, protests. So I want to know, like, what do you think about protests? What did you initially think about it? What have you learned about it? Do you think it makes a difference?
Personally, I think protests show the people around the world, because there's news people out there, and it shows that we care about our people and that we're tired of seeing them die from stuff that has nothing to do with them. They're dying because of the color of their skin, and so we think it's unfair. But at the same time, we go out and protest, and I don't feel like anything's changing. I mean, people see us protesting, they see us hurt, and I feel like some people just don't care. It's just that's just how it is. That's how the system is. That's where we are in the system, and so it's just protesting. I mean, I agree, we should protest, and I think it's a good movement, but it's at the same time, I don't know if it's doing anything for us, because I feel like we can go out and protest, we can go out and Black Lives Matter, we can do all that, but at the same time, it's cops are still killing Black people at the end of the day.
And see, to me, I hear more kind of hopelessness or powerlessness in that statement to me. We can go out and we can let our voices be heard, but at the end of the day, is it really doing anything? Yeah. I mean, that's a valid question, and I think it's one of those things that we've used, over the years, and not just people of color, but all people in history. You see, where people have stormed places of power to acting out to let them know their displeasure either with government or a law or a rule or something that a power has done to a group of people who feel oppressed and unheard. So yeah, I think that's a question that we'll be asking ourselves, and that's why everyone is saying, we need to get out and vote. You can protest, but really you need to vote. So as a young person, what is that, as someone who's not eligible to vote, what is that, people saying that, what do you think about that? Do you think that is voting as powerful, equal to protest? Is it just another way to express yourself?
Yeah, I mean, once, because I know back in the day that we weren't allowed to vote. We were talking about that in my history class. And so, yeah, I think if you can vote, you should, because especially for everybody that's running, to change the environment of the world, that I think you should vote for who you want to be running the environment.
That's cool. Do you think, so that leads me to another question. So do you think that who is in office impacts your environment?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
How so?
I don't know. I feel like if we have a leader in charge and knows how to handle certain situations, then I feel like the world would be a better place, especially if the person in charge is for everyone and wants everyone to be safe and stay safe, including Black lives. So I feel like that would be important.
so let's say, because we've had all kinds of presidents. So we've had presidents that believed that, have been different than our current president. We've had a biracial president before, and then we've had, all the, Bill Clinton and different ones. And so, and I know, but you're very young, and so this is the most probably that you've ever paid attention to knowing like what's going on in the world. So I can't even ask you that question. That's something for you guys as our audience to think about, that who have lived through several iterations of presidents, Democrat, Republican, those that are perceived as good, those are that who are perceived as good after they die, and all of that politics entails. And that's a good question. Does the leader of the free world control, impact, motivate us, the decisions that we make every day in our world? To me, when I think about it, I see it differently. I know a lot of my friends see it the way you described it. Like, the leader, they always say things roll downhill, that whoever your leader is how your followers will be. So I hear that, I understand that. But then I wonder where personal responsibility comes in too. I think that's a question, because there are some people that you can have a bad teacher, but that doesn't, what I would tell you, that I don't care about that. I still want you to do your best, and I still want you to read your work and you to turn it in and do the best that you can. So at the same time, I always push you to be better, even no matter who is in power over you, perceived power. So, all right, very good. And so I wanted to ask you too, I'm sure, I know friends that I've talked to, have you heard or have y'all talked about the difference between a protest and a riot, and how, people as a whole, aren't being treated well by the police in contrast to Black Lives Matter and things like that. So have you guys as young people had those kind of conversations? Like when your friends talk about the protest, do they use the word riot or do they use the word protest for the most part?
Most of my friends use protest. I've heard a couple people use them as riots, and most of my friends got mad and like, that's not a riot. They're peacefully protesting and this and that. But yeah, I don't think. Are you asking me like if people are rioting?
I want to know, what do you think? What do you think? Do you think of what you are seeing and hearing? Do you perceive them as protests, or do you perceive them as riots, and do you perceive them as both?
Yeah, sometimes there was the one where they were like burning stuff, but I understood why, like because they're angry and like they want to be heard, because we haven't been heard for so long and they're still not listening. Black people are still getting killed. So there was some that were riots, but most of them are peaceful protests that turn into riots because of the cops. So that's what I think.
Okay, that's fair. And then you all, I can't see if anyone is commenting. So we're gonna. Oh, Bailey is. Go ahead. Push wave on that. So make sure that we see y'all. Thank y'all for being on. And if you guys have any comments at all, you guys comment. We can pull you on the call, or we could just shout you out as far as what you think about some of these things. And then even in the playback, feel free to comment below. We're gonna go back and read these things. So we talked about protests. We talked about freedom. We talked about your opinion of policing. So what things do you think should change? I know it's a big, broad question, but just in your thoughts when you think about everything that you see and hear, what do you think should change?
I don't know, I don't know how they would do how to make the police be fair, like all the way around the world, because not all cops are bad, and I get that, but I don't know. Like if they could build a system on fairness and like to make all cops like feel equal about every person, but I don't know how they would be able to do that. So it's kind of hard because I know everybody has different opinions on people. So like cops could be like hired and they're like racist and they have like something against the black people, and so it's really unfair. And so I don't know how to make it fair for everyone without I don't know, without having less people in the police force.
Yeah.
Because I don't know.
And that's a good point, though. I don't know if, and I'm not familiar, and if someone is watching and is a police officer or is familiar with their training, definitely comment below, and I'll go back and read it. And when we tape our show, I'll be able to give comment to it. But I think it's a valid point or question to be able to ask, is that a part of their training? Is ethnic appearances, racial profiling, racial sensitivities, are those kinds of things tested? I've seen things where police are kind of going through these simulations, and this may be just TV shows or whatnot, so y'all, pipe up if I'm all off base, but I've seen things where, like an old lady pops up and a robber with a gun pops up and you got to be able to shoot the right one, right? But are there simulations that can occur where you see regular people, different people of color, to be able to gauge if they are responding in a negative way? Are you shooting someone in a simulation because of the color of their skin? Are there other indicators of a threat that we as Americans can advocate for police training to include? And so that those things can be rooted out and trained through, if there are people that are flagging to be responsive to show more aggression to people of color.
Mm-hmm.
That seems like something that, you can make simulations so real.
Mm-hmm.
That seems like an easy thing that you can add,
right.
In police officer training. And then you can also do training, even mandatory training for police officers that are already police officers, as well as new recruits. Just make it a part of the training. So anyway, I think that's an awesome idea, and I think they should consider that. And the last question that I have for you, Bailey, is, when we kind of talked about this already, that some people are looking to elections, looking to leaders. Kind of to save us or to change things. We have a big election coming up in November, and it'll be, Trump versus Biden. But I just wanted to know, what role do you think we can individually play to bring about a change in our society?
I don't know, because everybody's kind of different, and so I don't know. I feel like it's all about fairness to me and how you were raised. So I don't really know. I'm like, be kind to everyone always, I think, is key. Even, like, it doesn't matter their skin color, but then again, everybody's different. So it's just like, not everybody wants to be kind to everyone. So, especially the black people to the white people, because like, it goes both ways. Sometimes black people aren't the kindest to white people, which I understand why, and majority of the time, white people aren't nice to black people. So I just feel like it's all about kindness and fairness. I feel like if you're a kind person and you're kind to everyone around you, no matter their race or whatever they have, I just feel like you should just be kind. And like, I think that can make a difference. Like, it doesn't really, I think we're all the same. We all have the same blood. And skin color is not, it shouldn't be what defines like you as a human,
Yes.
So, I don't know. That's what I think.
I love that answer. I think I would say something very similar, too. I think in interactions that I've had with friends, I've always talked about asking questions. A lot of times we will make assumptions about people without knowing them. And I think that's what causes fear. And it could be harmless based on things we've been taught growing up. Sometimes, like we talked about earlier, about me having to teach you certain things for your safety. And that will make you perceive certain people in a different light. But that was the only way that I can make sure that I teach you to preserve your life. And that could be the same for all different people that are different colors and from different backgrounds. I don't mean to say colors, but from different backgrounds. And so I think understanding I love what you said about being kind. But I think that if we can begin to understand that we were all taught and picked up different things about different people from our parents, from people around us, from people who we learn everything from, and that clouds the way you look at other people and what you think about other people. And sometimes, because everyone is different, we have to take the time to get to know someone on an individual level. And I think if we are kind, as you said, and if we can take the time to try to get to know other people who are different than us, then it changes their perception. The when we talk about policing, for instance, if there's police officers that have people of color in their family or friends that are people of color, I believe a person would be less afraid of a person of color because they know people of color, or they would see them as less of a threat if I have a relationship with people of color. And I think that the same way that goes for us, you know, people that we work with, you know, if we have people that we know, love, care about, who don't look and act and believe like us, then we're less likely to view them as a threat.
Right.
And so I think if we can just befriend and get to know as many people that are not like us as possible, I think that can begin to change us all, as well as being kind. So
Olivia said,
yeah.
I feel like it goes both ways for being kind, I think.
Yes, absolutely, Olivia. Yes, I agree. I totally agree with you. And let me see if anyone was, Bailey, I don't know if you want to hold that. I just want to make sure that I wave at Carrie. Carrie's with us. Ruby and Evelyn was watching. Thank you all so much for being on the forum. I can't tell. I know someone is on through Instagram. Milton, thanks for being on. And then everyone that's going to go back and watch the video as a playback, I want to thank y'all for joining us. I am so appreciative for your support of the show. It means a lot to me. And so I just want to thank you. And I want you to have more conversations and outside of the forum and inside of the forum, and we'll be back. This is the last that you'll see of us. I want to make sure I give Bailey time to focus on school, because she is the heart of the forum, puts everything together for us, and is behind a lot of the production of the forum. And so we want to make sure that I give her time. So that's the reason why this next show that we're producing about freedom, policing, and protest, we'll take a break after that, and then during breaks we'll come back and do other series. In between time, though, I want you to always reach out to me. You can DM me, comment at some of our past shows on YouTube. It's under Tori, the letter CME, if you want to search for me on YouTube. And look out for our next show that will come out. And we so thank you for listening to us as we premiered the topic of our last show. Anyone who may be interested in participating on the cut of our last show, definitely hit me up and we'll see if we can pull you in. Thank you so much again, Bailey. You got anything you want to say as I play us out? High five! Whoop whoop! I want to make sure I play